Trey Edward Schultz is probably the best Instagram filmmaker. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. Hey there, Cinephiles. Today I'm reviewing Hurry Up Tomorrow. This is a semi-surrealist drama thriller starring The Weeknd, Jenna Ortega, and Barry Keoghan. This is practically a visual album meets Nightmare as a film, and it's very interesting in concept. However, the delivery of it all is a bit amiss. This is definitely going to go so hard for a certain crowd. However, it just feels like it's almost there to actually being really, really good, but for the lack of talent in certain areas, it never quite reaches the exact potential that you want it to reach, even from the start of the film, let alone if you're a fan of The Weeknd or any of these people who made the film going into it. The Weeknd's music to me can be very cinematic, especially Dawn FM, so the idea of making a movie centering around The Weeknd not only as a character but his music as well, to me it could have been a fantastic film. However, the fact that it is starring The Weeknd himself, playing himself and with his own music, this just feels a bit disingenuous, especially due to the fact that The Weeknd isn't really that strong of an actor, not yet at least. Unfortunately, he gets easily outclassed by his co-stars in every single scene, and even when Jenna and Barry aren't on screen, look, I love The Weeknd. He has great music. He has a wonderful singing voice, and his performance outside of acting, I think, are really, really great. However, almost every single emotion here I just couldn't buy. If you take The Weeknd from in front of the screen to behind the camera, I think this movie would be a lot better. He could have informed an actor exactly what he was going through in his trials and tribulations, and obviously a lot of this is based around him and just ideas I feel like he might have gotten from a nightmare of his own, but him being the person that we're following for the majority of this movie, just unfortunately it's a deterrent, and it just doesn't necessarily make me love or even like the movie all that much. It's really important for you to buy into the lead character, and even though he's basically playing himself, or at least some version of himself, it just misses. And it is unfortunately due to me not loving his performance that the majority of the film just kind of crumbles. Not that it's the only thing I find wrong with this movie, but it is the biggest flaw that kind of just unfortunately sinks the rest of it. The writing overall isn't quite the strongest, and even though the entire film does feel very musical in the sense of kind of tone and visuals and just the way everything kind of ebbs and flows, I do feel like we're lacking a bit of substance even though it's overtly stylized. And it does kind of suck too, because you do feel the energy behind the film and it just feels so what the hell, go for it type of thing, but it feels more like they had this idea over one weekend and they were getting some drinks and they said, what the hell, let's do it and let's see what comes out of it. And it is unfortunately because of that I do feel like this movie just needed to be honed and maybe sat on for a little bit longer in the pre-production process, either developing the script or even getting The Weeknd, more used to acting on screen. This doesn't feel like the final version that we should have gotten. It feels like they focus a lot on the technical aspects and just trying to make it so cool that they kind of forget to really give this movie a true heart. Visually, it looks cool. It's going to be great on those social media pages that just look at cinematography and especially stills, but as a whole film, I'm honestly sad by how just okay this is. And what really saddens me is that there is a great theme stuck in this film, and it could have been told in such a very fun and pulpy way. Basically, in here, The Weeknd is only able to communicate his true feelings through his art, and that's not anything we haven't seen before, but the way that this movie was going to go about it and just kind of show the consequences from that, at least more cinematic and overt scale, I think this could have been a really, really fun movie and just, again, very pulpy, and I think it could have been the talk of the town, if you will. However, due to the lack of marketing and also this movie just being fine, I think this is just going to be kind of forgotten. Although I do love The Weeknd's music, his ability to just not necessarily have any gravitas or aura, if you will, just kind of sinks the whole movie, as well as some other story things that just really needed to be tightened up, and thematically it just needed to have his heart on his sleeve a lot more. I give Hurry Up Tomorrow a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Honestly, this could have been a surprise of the year, but unfortunately it's just going to be one of those movies that came out and no one really saw. But don't get me wrong, if you're a fan of The Weeknd or any of these other actors, do go out and see this because it is still very interesting, and hearing the music on theater speakers, I mean, there's nothing like that. But alright, those are my thoughts on Hurry Up Tomorrow. Be sure to let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. As always, thank you guys for liking, commenting, and subscribing. Be sure to stay tuned for more Yeti Films content, and I'll watch you later.